Hi, I'm Heidi with Onigo Stamping. Welcome to my craft corner. Today I'm going to show you how to create this fun little gift box that can hold some different chocolates in it. And it's so cute, it has a pop-up surprise when you open it. I can't wait to share it with you. All of the cutting dimensions for today's project can be found on my website, and the link to that is in the description to this video. You can also find a link to my Stampin' Up shop where you will find a complete supply list that you can easily order directly from there. When you open up that shop, it's really cool. All of the supplies will be listed there. If you need them all, you can just hit add to cart and all of those will go in your cart. If you only need some of them, you can go ahead and click through and take off the ones you don't need, and then hit add to cart and those will go to your cart. All right. If you don't already have a Stampin' Up demonstrator that you work with regularly, I would love to be your demonstrator. Just go ahead and leave me a comment or send me an email to stampinheidi@yahoo.com, and I would love to get back to you and find out how I can help you with your stamping. All right, Onigo, let's get stamping. I'm going to be making a treat box to hold a couple of Ghiradelli squares. So you know the Ghiradelli squares, they come like this, right? These fun little squares of chocolate. And I am going to make a treat box that is going to hold 2 of these. All right, so I'm going to set those aside so that they're ready to go. Today's project has very little stamping in it. Instead, it uses some die cut shapes, some simple triangles and circles to make a fun sunshine that we're going to put inside the box. So for that, I used the stitched shapes framelits for the circles. I used the stitched triangles, and then we're also going to use the stitched So Sweetly dies on the box itself. So let's start by making the elements to it. With all of these elements, I've already pre-cut them, but I sponged all of them. This just gives it a little bit more depth. I like doing this when, there's no stamped image or anything. It's just pieces of cardstock. It just gives it a little bit more warmth, depth, definition to what you're making. So I've cut a bunch of the triangles and a circle, and I want to show you how I actually sponged it. So I cut these out of Daffodil Delight cardstock. I'm going to start with some Daffodil Delight ink, and I have a piece of wax paper here. If you have another non-porous surface, glass or non-porous plastic, something like that, you could use that. I don't have anything, so I just grabbed a piece of wax paper, which works pretty well. And then I have some Stampin' sponges. These are the way the Stampin' sponges come. They come in packs of 3 like this. And I cut these into at least 6 pieces, sometimes 8. So I have a little wedge of sponge, and I'm just going to ink it up in some Daffodil Delight. And then I kind of start off my cardstock and pull it on. And I'm just using little circles to pull that on to the edge of my cardstock. Now, to give it even more definition, I will go ahead and grab my Mango Melody ink pad and open that up. And now I'm going to take this, and this time I'm going to hold it up so that I just get the ink on the edge, and I'm just going to flick the edge because I just want to get just a little bit of darker ink all the way on the edge of this cardstock. I don't want it to go too far, so I just hold it up and flick the edge. I've already done a bunch of those. Let me put away my ink pads before I accidentally get my project inky where I don't want it. I'm going to set that wax paper aside. We're going to use it again a little bit later, but I'm going to pull out my pieces. So I have a circle that I cut, and then I have a bunch of these little shapes. So they're all ready to go. Actually, well, no, it's good. Let's hope it's good, shall we? I was thinking if I wanted to cut something else first. I'm going to set this. This is a piece of 3x2, and this is cardstock in pumpkin pie. And this is the size of the finished project. I'm just going to pull this out kind of as a reference as I'm building this sunshine to make sure that I don't end up making it bigger than what I want. What I am going to do is I will attach these little rays to it so that they go all the way around. I'm going to go ahead and just turn it over, and we're just going to do it. So I'm going to start by putting a bunch of ink on the back of that circle. I'm actually going to lay this right on here where I want it. And then I'm going to put my triangles down where I want them to be. Now I'm not getting any ink on this orange paper that I'm going to use later. It's all on the circles. So, and remember, this is the back, so I'm laying these all down upside down. So now that I have 3 on there, I've kind of covered up my whole circle, right? So I'm going to go ahead and put some more glue down just on the triangles that I have there. So get that back kind of where I want it again. And now I'm going to go ahead and glue in some more triangles. And then once again, I'm going to add a little bit more glue. See, this is creating a whole bunch of layers here, right? The parts of this little sunshine are going to be pretty thick. Okay, we'll just set that aside. Now when I turn this over, hopefully, yep, so there's my sun, just like that. So I'm going to lay this on a piece of Mango Melody, and I'm going to keep it upside down for now, okay? And I want to grab a pencil, and I'm just outlining around the outside edge. Oops. The glue's still a little bit sticky, so it's trying to stick to my hands. I'm trying to do this quicker. I'd probably set this aside and let it dry and go on to another step and come back, but for now we'll just go with it. So I just did that all the way around the outside. Now I'm going to grab my paper snips and I'm going to cut this out using my paper snips. And I'm going to start by just kind of cutting around it to make it smaller. Sometimes holding on to all that cardstock gets a little bit hard to hold on to. I'm not going to cut it exactly on that pencil line because I actually want it to show just a little bit. So I'm going to cut just outside that pencil line. I am going to, instead of making pointy corners, I'm going to go ahead and round the corners around where those triangles are going to stick out, just because I found when I did this earlier that if you make those pointy corners, they will stick out too far and this will not fit well in your box. So the points just end up being too long. That all nicely cut around there, and I will actually go ahead and turn it over so you can't see those pencil lines, and we'll lay this, I'll turn over my sunshine too, and it should match up pretty well there. So I have just a little bit of the Mango Melody cardstock that's sticking out, peeking out around the edges. And of course, just like everything on this box, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sponge the edges using my Mango Melody ink. Grab my sponge. I'll just sponge that on. Just like I did before, using that same method of little circles. I'm going really fast this time just to get this done. Oh, and I forgot to put my wax paper down, see? So this is why I'm getting all this ink on here and not getting quite as nice of a soft edge as I did on the other pieces. Just like that. And then I will do the pumpkin pie as well. And I'm getting lots of ink on my fingers too. So hopefully I don't end up with fingerprints, but I might. And I'm just gonna come in with that pumpkin pie and do the edges. Very carefully, trying not to get too much pumpkin pie, just get the edges on my sunburst there. Now, I don't want to put this together quite yet. All right, what I'm going to do, first I'm going to start by cutting off the bottom of my sunshine so I have a flat edge. Using my little guillotine trimmer, let's make sure this is still going to fit into my box. Yep, it should. I will lay this on the outside starburst. Again, I don't want to glue this down yet. Just gonna lay it on there, and I'm gonna mark where I want to cut this off. Marked. I'm gonna stick it in my guillotine trimmer again. And just slice that off. I'm gonna do just a little bit more. Oops. I like this little guillotine trimmer. Unfortunately, we do not sell it. It was a special offer last winter, but it is great for doing these tiny little bits. So I'm gonna go ahead and set that aside for just a minute, and we're gonna work on putting our box together. For the box, I am starting with a piece of Daffodil Delight cardstock that is 6 1/4 inch by 4 1/2 inch. Remember, all of these dimensions are available for you on my website, so if you need them again, you can go back and grab them there. 6 1/4 inch by 4 1/2. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to score at 3/4 of an inch all the way around. So I have my Stampin' Up! Paper trimmer, and this is nice because I can grab the side on the right hand side and just line that up to 3/4 inch. And use my scoring blade and just turn this and score it on each side. After I've scored it 3/4 of an inch on each side, I am going to score it at 2 3/4 and at 3 1/2. So 2 3/4 inches. I will do another score. Oops, do not cut it with my cutting blade. Score it, and then 3 1/2. I score it again. So those are all the score lines on there now. I'm gonna put my paper trimmer aside. With my snips, I want to cut all of these little short bits here just on the 2 longer sides. So I'm not going to cut on this side, just on the top and bottom here. So I'm just lining it right up in those score lines and clipping it to the corner. Like that. And on each of those small flaps, I want to cut off a little triangle edge on both sides of the smaller flaps. Not on these big ones, just the small ones. So I'm just cutting a little bit in and then to the corner again and pulling out those little tiny triangles. After I have done this first side, I want to flip it around and do the other side as well. So again, just cutting as best I can right on those score lines up to the corners. I'm trying to like lay my scissors right in the groove, but it doesn't always work. And then clipping off the corners of the little flaps. Remember, not the big flaps, just the little tiny flaps. To glue my box together, I am using the new Stampin' Seal Plus. This is a really nice strong tape that's really great for things like these little boxes. Before I glue it, I want to burnish all of the edges with my bone folder. So and they're all nice and burnished. All right. So I've burnished all the flaps. Now I'm going to use the Stampin' Seal. And what I want to do, actually before I get too far, I need to cut a little blip off. So we're going to make a little tab in one side. Decided this is my top, and I'm just taking, I just want to use this curved edge. Any curved or circle that you have will work for this. And I'm just trying to get it centered as best I can, which is kind of nice because the edges of where the fold is actually line up on the edges of my punch. And so now I just have a little spot punched right out of there. I want to fold up the bottom. I want those little tiny flaps to go on the inside. So I will start by putting glue out here on the outside of those little flaps. And I'm going ahead and putting 2 lines of the glue. This glue has little tiny like rectangles. You can almost see them. So it's not a solid strip of glue. They're little teeny tiny rectangles that just come off as you roll. And if you get a little bit too much, what I do is I just take it and I kind of fold it up. So I have put that glue on those 2 edges. Now I'm gonna fold that in and pull the side up and try to make a nice neat corner. We'll do that again on the other side. Try to get this as nice and neat as I can, as square as I can. I missed. So this tape is really strong, but sometimes if you haven't pushed it down too much, you can still kind of grab it apart. And then I'll do the same on this side. Push that in, try to get this as square as I can. And again, those little flaps are going on the inside. So I've glued down all 4 of those flaps. I want to glue down the top now because the top is gonna come like this and glue, and then we can close the top to make our box like this. So once again, I'm gonna put the glue on the outside. I will do 2 little strips of the Stampin' Seal Plus. The regular Stampin' Seal is more like the snail that we used to have. The Stampin' Seal Plus is a lot stronger. So again, the tape went up just a little bit over, so I just kind of folded it up and try it. Now I'm gonna fold that corner in, try to make a nice corner, do that again over on the other side. And there is the base for my little box. And you can just see how it folds, right? To make this a little bit prettier, I went ahead and I grabbed the Stitch So Sweetly dies, and I'm gonna make 2 of these, one for the top and one for the bottom. Now I went ahead and I pre-cut both of them. However, you will notice if I put them like this, that one is shorter than the other. What happened is that the die is a little bit longer than what you need, and I'm using the second to largest die here of the Stitch So Sweetly dies. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this off. I have my magnetic plate and my cutting plate, and I'm going to line this up, and you can kind of feel it when it gets in the right spot. And I just want to cut off one little blip. So hopefully get this in the right spot here, and I don't have to cut it twice. All right, take this and run it through my Big Shot. Okay, so I ran this through my Big Shot, and now when I take this off, hopefully this worked. Oh, I missed a little bit, so I didn't do a very good job. I was having trouble getting this. A lot of times you can get it right in the right groove, and I kind of missed, so you can see that I didn't do the best. It didn't leave it quite as nice. Usually that does not happen. Last couple times I used my Big Shot, I've been having trouble lining it up. Usually it's real easy. You can kind of get the edges so that they are stuck in the right spot. But anyway, I'm just gonna go ahead and roll with it for now. I'm gonna grab my wax paper again. Just like the other pieces, I want to sponge this with a little mango melody. And then just like the other pieces, I'm gonna come back with my pumpkin pie and give it a little swipe on the edge, right? I'm just running my sponge right along that edge while I hold it up in the air. This way I don't get quite as much ink, just getting on the very edges with the pumpkin pie. So then I have 2 pieces, top and bottom. And I'm going to start by gluing this on the top. I don't want to take my Stampin' Seal all the way to the edges because the box isn't all the way to the edges. It's not starting real good. If you're having trouble starting it, you can just reach in and kind of roll it a little bit. And that should get it going again. There we go. It's pretty easy, but just like every tape roller, sometimes they just get a little bit grouchy with you. You gotta show them who's boss. So there we go. Then I'm gonna take my box and I'm gonna try to get this centered right on that piece. And push it down. With the other piece, I have a piece of pumpkin pie that I was using earlier. I'm gonna put that on the top. Center it. And then I have a piece of the Daffodil Delight, and I am using a stamp from the Right Triangle stamp set. I'm using these little flowers, and I'm going to stamp those all over the front of this Daffodil Delight piece of cardstock. The pumpkin pie was 2 by 3 inches, just like our box, and then this piece of Daffodil Delight is, let me see, 1 13/16 by 2 13/16. It's basically 3/16 off from being 2 by 3. I'm just gonna stamp little flowers all over here. Then, just like the other pieces, grab my wax paper and I'm gonna sponge in from the edge. Oops, not that one, this one. And then once again, come back in with my Mango Melody and do just the edges. Just to give it just a little bit more depth. I like having the two colors. Just kind of gives it even more oomph to it. Let's just flick the edges with the Mango Melody. I'm gonna put those two away. So I got my pumpkin pie sitting here too. Let's get these ink pads closed up. I'm gonna make a giant mess. So set those aside. This is gonna go on the front, on the top of that pumpkin pie for my top piece. Just like that. Now I'm going to put this on my box. Take and close my box, and I'm trying to line this up with the bottom. This is a little bit hard, especially when I am not leaning all the way over. But hopefully that's pretty good. All right, so let's put a greeting on the top of this. So this is from a Hello Pumpkin, a paper pumpkin that came out in June called Hello Sunshine, and I just love the greetings in this. There are other stamps in our catalog that have really great greetings that would work too, but this happens to be what I have, so I went ahead and grabbed it. This is why I love the paper pumpkins, because so often they just have the best greetings. And I'm just inking this up in Mango Melody ink, and I'm going to stamp it on some Whisper White cardstock. Using my paper snips, I will cut this out. Now what's nice about this greeting is it's kind of just flat, straight across the top, so I just cut that in a straight line. And I don't have to spend a lot of time doing the fussy cutting. That will come across the bottom. The bottom has the brighten word. It says a little something to brighten your day, and the brighten is kind of the scripty font. So that I'm gonna spend a little bit of time just fussy cutting around the font to make it look fun. Leaving just a little bit of a border Pretty quick and easy. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then it goes straight again. And finally, this last corner. So there's my greeting. And I'm gonna add this to the top of my box using some Stampin' Dimensionals. I'm gonna use the minis because this is pretty small. And I'm just gonna put a bunch of these on the back. Ooh. Peel off the backs. And then just put this right on the top of my box. Just like that. Now for the inside, we're gonna do something fun. All right. I'm gonna start by putting my Ghiradelli squares in there for just a moment so you can see how they fit. Now it's hard because I put this top on, it's not gonna open all the way anymore. So I can't like push it backwards to show you, but they fit right in there. Hopefully you can see that. Now remember that sunshine we made way back at the beginning, right? Now we are going to make this pop up on the inside. So I know this is very hard to see, but I have a little tiny piece of window sheeting that is 3/4 of an inch by 1.5 inch. And we are going to start by adhering our sunshine to this. So I'm gonna take Stampin' Seal Plus and put some down on my sunshine piece here. Just like that. Now I'm gonna go ahead and adhere the back. So I'm gonna put some Stampin' Seal Plus down where that window sheet is, but then these outside rays, the sun rays, are really tiny, so I'm just gonna use some liquid glue out on there. And I'll glue that down. I'm gonna try to line up the bottom. Just like that, all right. So you can see that window sheet is coming out the bottom. What we are going to do is we are going to adhere this on the inside. So I'm gonna take out those Ghiradelli squares. I'm gonna put some Stampin' Seal on the bottom of this window sheet again. And now I'm gonna open up my box. I'm gonna try to center my sunshine in my box. And I'm just going to push that down inside. Now put my Ghiradelli squares back inside. And I can fold that sunshine down and close my box. So now what happens, I have my box like this, and you go to open it, and that sunshine pops up at you. Isn't that so fun and cute? I wanna add just one little thing to the top of here. It just looks like it needs a little bling. So I'm gonna get out my Artistry Blooms sequins, because these are my favorite. They're self-adhesive. If you don't have these yet, you should get some, they're awesome. And I'm just gonna pull them off, and I'm gonna stick a few down on the top of here. And these are Mango Melody, so they match right in with the card, with the box. So just like that. Isn't that cute? And then you get it, and the sunshine pops up, and you get some Ghiradelli squares. Thank you again for joining me today. Wasn't that box so much fun? You'll find all the cutting dimensions and better photos of the project at my website. The link to that is in the description to this video. You'll also find a link to my Stampin' Up shop, where you'll find the complete list of supplies that we used, and you can easily order straight from there. If you like this video, please make sure you subscribe, hit like, leave me a comment. Can't wait to hear from you. Until next time, happy stamping.